Today we have the Dual Cyclotron from Livewire, which is quite possibly my most favorite module of my collection so far. First off, the Dual Cyclotron consists of two identical LFOs, or the cyclotrons. Each has a selectable time range, either stretch, which is the longest or the slowest rate range, normal, and then compress, which is the fastest rate. And then it's switchable between two LFOs, linear, which is just a triangle wave, and discrete, square wave. And also has a symmetry control, which basically leans the waveform either way. So if it was the triangle wave, it would become like a ramp wave on either end of the knob. In addition to the two cyclotrons, there's a third LFO, which I don't think really has a name, but I call it the blue one because of its blindingly bright blue LED. And when I turn it on, you'll see it's not just the camera that makes it look that bright. It really is that bright. It's pretty much the same as the cyclotrons. It has a rate. It's switchable between AF, audio frequency, and LF, low frequency. Same symmetry knob. It also has a shapeshifter knob, which goes between chunky, which is a square wave, and jagged, which is a saw wave. And then a focus knob, which is like smoothing. It goes from sharp, which is no smoothing, to soft. In fact, right around here or so in the knob range, it's like too much smoothing. It almost just becomes this singular, slightly wiggly voltage, but still pretty cool. And lastly, the way that they all interact with each other is pretty much based on the control knob setting. If it's set to normal, the two cyclotrons modulate the blue one, and that comes out the main output. The axis tilt here controls about the balance between the two cyclotrons. So all the way here, you pretty much just hear this cyclotron. Likewise, that's all that one, and that's about 50%. The intensity knob controls the amount of modulations the cyclotrons put on the blue LFO. In manual mode, the blue LFO just kind of runs on itself based on the initial rate, and that just goes out the main output. External is pretty much the same, except the rate is controlled by an external voltage. The auxiliary out always consists of the two cyclotrons, with the balance control being put into play. And all those, both the aux out and main output, are always available simultaneously. So it leads to some really cool, weird sounds, because you could easily have the set to normal, main output is getting blue LFO modulated by the cyclotrons, and then use the aux output somewhere else, which is just the voltage of the cyclotron. So let's cook up some patches here. Cyclotron. So alright, so what you're going to be hearing is the control set to normal. So we have the cyclotrons modulating the main blue LFO, and I'll actually have the intensity down and I'll slowly bring it up so you can hear the cyclotrons start to affect it. That's in audio rate mode, modulating the sine wave of one of the oscillators on the Dalek. And I'm just going to have the Model 10 cycle and keep opening the VCA so you can hear it. So that's why the volume keeps going up and down. You can adjust the focus and smooth that out a little bit. Here we can blend to a square wave instead of the saw. Alright, this is basically the same patch as before, except rather than use the main output, I'm now using the auxiliary output. Alright, so now we're going to use the aux and the main outputs at the same time. So we're back in normal mode, so the main out's going to be the blue LFO modulated by the cyclotrons. And that is still going to the carrier frequency control on the Dalek. But this time we're listening to the ring modulator out on the Dalek. And the modulator LFO's in low mode, so it's giving it kind of a vibrato. And the frequency of that is being controlled by the aux output. Here we go. Alright, now for the bigger patch. So pretty much the same as before. The aux out is still going to the Dalek modulator's modulator frequency. The main output is still going to the carrier's frequency. But now we're using the stepped output of the Plan B Model 24 to use as the external input control for the rate of the blue LFO. That Model 24 is being triggered by the Model 28 tap clock in an eighth note triplet with the middle triplet turned off, and it's also triggering the polyphonic envelope, which is opening the main VCA. It's also going through the Frequensteiner to give a little bit of filtering, and I've added some Mogerfoger analog delay to it, so it sounds neat. Here we go. I'll let this play us out. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.